So I'm sitting in front of my window and it's actually snowing outside, but I wanted to start my video by saying that it's spring, which is kind of contradicting right now, but it is spring and that means that summer is coming up and my contract here in Paris is ending, which means that I have to decide what I'm gonna do with my life. And I would love to not settle on anything, and I also don't think that I have, but I want to keep as many options open as possible, and that also includes studying. So every year since I graduated, I've applied for universities in the spring, even though I wasn't really sure if I was gonna go study, but just because then if I wake up in August and I want to study, I have the option. But this year it was kind of more difficult for me because I really didn't know what studies to apply to, and also I have a feeling that I'm actually gonna go study this time, so it's kind of more important to me that I apply for the right things. So I'm not sure whether I'm gonna go study. Like right now it feels like the right thing for me to do, considering like the troubles I'm having. For me it's a lot about like mental stimulation and like intellectual stimulation. I don't really feel like I'm getting that, and I'm really bad at like picking up a book and just reading. And I've always really liked school and liked studying, and I'm very curious about a lot of things. So I've always been like kind of certain that I wanted to study and I wanted to go to university, but now it feels like it really is the time. Like I can feel my body is like thirsty for knowledge. So I kind of made my mind up about like, yeah, I'm probably gonna study in the summer. And then I was like, but like where am I gonna study first of all, and what am I gonna study second of all? Like I feel very comfortable with the thought of studying, but like picking a location and an actual subject, that is very unsettling to me. So like throughout this entire year I've been very confused, and like I've been reading about so many different European universities. Because like the thing is, in the EU, you're entitled to apply for any university in a EU country on the same terms as the local citizens. So in the countries where it's free for local citizens to study, it would also be free for me to study. And on top of that, Danish students get paid by the government to study, and those money that you would get paid, you can also bring them with you if you go study outside of Denmark. So I've always been like, it's a really good opportunity to study somewhere else. But the more I was looking at it and the more I was thinking about it, and also the longer time I've stayed in France and like experienced their school system, and I've talked with a lot of other young people who have studied in a lot of other places, I've just kind of realized that I would miss the Danish study culture, and I would miss the Danish philosophy of learning. I feel like maybe it's not that Danish, maybe it's more like a Scandinavian thing, but I do feel like the Scandinavian countries do school very differently from like Southern European countries, and I just prefer the Danish way. I have a really hard time imagining myself in a French university. Like, it just wouldn't make sense to me. So I kind of like reluctantly realized that maybe I want to study in Denmark. And that realization was so hard for me to have because I really don't see myself living in Denmark anytime soon. But it really, like, when I was thinking about it, like, it makes a lot of sense for me to be at a Danish university instead of anything else. And then, like, what Danish universities would it then be? I know, like, maybe this is kind of backwards, that if you want to study medicine and you know I want to study medicine, you look at like good schools for that specifically, and you look at like what kind of schools you can get into. For me, since I really don't know the subject, I'm not gonna pick something that I'm like, yeah, this is so much what I want to do, like fuck everything else, I'm devoted to this. I'm more like, I'm gonna pick something because I miss studying right now, and it's not necessarily gonna be what I'm gonna be doing in 15 years. It's more like where I want to be right now. So because those are my motivations for picking a university, I should also be considering what kind of situation am I putting myself in. Like, what city am I gonna be living in? What kind of people am I gonna be studying with? Because I feel like those aspects are gonna influence my everyday life the next couple of years a lot. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but I'm taking those things into account when picking a university. So I ended up deciding on the University of Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark, because Denmark is a small country and there are only like 3 or 4 good universities in Denmark, but the cities are generally really small, because it is a small country, so it's like very limited how many people we can have in our biggest cities. And even Copenhagen feels like a small town. Like, I know a lot of people there. You literally, like, when you take a walk, you know people. And I didn't even grow up there. And I just, like, I don't know, but it made the most sense to me to pick Copenhagen. So I was like, okay, I want to study this year, it's gonna be in Copenhagen, but I still didn't know like what I was gonna study, and I was a mess. Like, I was so stressed out, and I was like, how would I know? And it's just like, I feel like those people who have known that they want to like be a lawyer since they were like 13 years old, like, that's such a privilege. I change my mind like every 6 months. I'm like, no, now I want to do this. And it's just really difficult to then commit to something. But I went on to read about every fucking bachelor's degree you could get at the University of Copenhagen. And I just like, there's nothing really like, oh, that's fun. Because I feel like I have a lot of interests in a lot of different fields. Like, I'm very much a maths girl, but I'm also very much into like society and people, and I'm also into like culture and art, and it's just like, it's very wide, my interests, and it's difficult for me to like, I feel like every time I read about an education, I felt like I was limiting myself and I was letting go of things that were actually important to me. So it felt more like a negative thing to pick one, instead of like, oh, I'm excited about this and I want to do this. And just like, it feels wrong to me to pick an education that I'm not like excited about, but I'm instead mourning all of the stuff that I'm not getting to do. And I know that of course university is very like, you study this, but like, I just felt like there have to be a combination of my interests in some way. And again, I'm not thinking about jobs, because like, who gives a shit what I'm gonna do in 10 years, but to me it's more about like, I want to read books that actually interest me, I want to attend lectures that I can actually like stay awake during, because it makes sense to me to hear about those things. So that's like what I'm picking based on. And yeah, but I was like reading through everything. I found like one degree where I was like, that's actually kind of interesting and a fun combination. And I didn't feel like it would limit me that much, like quite the opposite. And it was like a combination of my different interests. And I don't know why I hadn't seen that before, because I've spent 3 years looking at this stuff. So yeah, I applied for that. I'm not gonna like say what it is yet because I'm not sure that I'm gonna go, and I don't want to jinx like my mood. It's very like based on my mood if I'm gonna study or not. Like I could imagine myself waking up in August and be like, no, I'm moving to Hong Kong or something. I don't know. And I really think that I do want to study now, so I have to like protect the little seed. I'm quite sure that I'm gonna get in though, because in Denmark you get in based on your grade level, but it's not the education putting out like you need to be above this level, otherwise you won't be able to finish this course. It's more about like if a lot of people apply, then they pick the top, like they pick from the top and down. So the more people with high grades that apply for a study, the higher the entrance grade level is gonna be. So for example, psychology is very popular in Denmark, and a lot of people with very high grades apply for psychology, but it doesn't mean that you have to be more clever to study psychology than to study some engineering course that doesn't get a lot of applicants and therefore has a low entry level. But it doesn't matter because my grades are high enough for me not to have to worry about getting accepted. And also the study I'm applying for, it doesn't have that high of an entry level. I don't think it's very well known, so I don't think it's a very popular thing to apply for. Yeah, so I applied for a study. I think my parents are thrilled. But then like I sent the application and I felt really good for like one day. I was like, it's out of my mind, now I can just enjoy my last time in Paris. I don't have to worry about like picking the right thing. But then like the thoughts started coming, like I have to move, I have to find an apartment, I have to find a job, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do about my friends, I have to like actually live in the same country as my family, which is terrifying. I have to figure out what I'm gonna do about Italian boy. Yeah, he's a difficult one because like he would not survive coming to Denmark. It's way too cold for him. No, I'm kidding, but like I'm not a fan of doing long distance, and now I'm gonna be in Copenhagen and yeah. I have to like accept that I'm gonna be stuck in a place. But then at the same time, like the reason why I want to study now is both that my mind is bored, but also like I feel like I'm tired of traveling the way I'm traveling at the moment, where I'm working shitty jobs and I'm barely like able to afford food. If I get like a real job with international skills, I can do the same thing I'm doing now, but just get actual grown-up jobs when I'm traveling around. And like that is so intriguing to me that I'm just studying in Denmark. It doesn't mean that I'm choosing a life in Denmark now. And also like a bachelor's 3 years, and I can do the entire last year abroad. So it's actually kun 2 years. It's actually kun, that was Danish. Kun means only in Danish. It's actually only 2 years that I'm committing to in Denmark. And that's like making my heartbeat go down and making me feel more comfortable. I don't know why Denmark makes me feel so claustrophobic. But it's just like the thought of living there, I'm just already like, ugh. I'll have to work on that, I guess. Am I excited? I don't know. I'm excited to leave Paris. I'm also not. And I'm excited to start studying. I'm also not. And I'm excited to like start a life in a new place, but also not. And I think everybody who have made these kind of decisions knows that of course you're really, really excited, but you also get really, really nervous. And I think it's okay to allow those feelings to coexist, because if that's how you react, then that's how you react, and we shouldn't. I feel like there's definitely been a pressure like with picking universities, like, oh, you have to be passionate, you have to be excited, da da da. no, I'm neither passionate nor excited about what I'm going to study, but I'm curious and I hope that it's gonna be good. And if not, I can always just like do something else. It's not a lifetime commitment. And I think that should be my point for today. Nothing is a lifetime commitment. You can do like absolutely whatever the fuck you want to do. That feels like a very me ending, so cheers to random shit.